An excerpt from Chapter 7, Colonel Daxton's Guide to Excelling in the Podcast Quadrant. All highlighted quotes in the outlines of Between Pages and Friends must be recorded and filed. Any host who fails to do so will be reported for dereliction of duty, as well as punished for the loss of any notes they failed to accurately record.
Welcome back to Between Pages and Friends, a book club podcast hosted by Con and Lauren, two besties who read a lot of books, and Jon and Kyle, their 5-star husbands who've agreed to read with them. I'm Lauren.
I'm Con.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Jon. You're listening to our first episode on Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, where we're discussing chapters 1 through 11. If you're new here, this is a book club style podcast, meaning there will be no spoilers for future chapters or books. So, if you've only read Fourth Wing and the first 11 chapters of Iron Flame, this is a safe space to read along with us. We'd love for you to share this podcast with your book besties and or significant other as well, so you can enjoy this epic series together too.
Additionally, this is your mild content warning. Fourth Wing is a new adult book, meaning it was written for audiences 18 and up. That being said, we'll be discussing themes and quotes from this book that include educational torture, long-distance sexual tension, and my new disdain for Zayden Ryerson.
Kyle!
As I live and breathe.
Zayden?
I do declare.
If you're a fan of this episode and can't wait for the next, you can join us on Patreon. We have 2 membership tiers available for $5 or $10 a month. You can receive early ad-free access to new episodes along with a delightful community of other book nerds, live events, a monthly book club, promo codes, merch discounts, bi-weekly D&D nights, and tons more.
Lastly, the best way to support any podcast is by writing a review on Audible or Apple Podcast. It only takes a moment and it makes a lasting impact, helping our show reach more book besties. Here's a recent 5-star review on Audible from our new bestie, Amber Nick 5, titled Book Besties Club. This podcast sparks serious joy. My husband and I are hooked on you guys, and he is so excited to now be a part of the Empyrean journey with season 2. I love the diversity of perspective across all 4 of you, and I get so much more out of my favorite pastime, which is reading, because I can rethink and relive with you all. So excited to hit play every Wednesday. Can't wait to party together at Enchanticon. Oh my gosh, Amber.
Nice.
Cool. Oh, I'm so excited to meet you at Enchanticon. Speaking of which, if you have missed, all 4 of us are going to be influencers at Enchanticon in St. Louis this year, August 15th through 17th. We'd love to see you, just like we'll get to see Amber there. And we've got a promo code for you. So head over to chanticon.com and use our code FRIENDS15 for 15% off your ticket. We can't wait to celebrate all of our favorite fandoms, including the Empyrean series, with you.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I'm so excited. All right, people, we got a new book and lots of new names. Settle into the saddle, Dragon Riders. It's time for this week's pronunciation guide on Iron Flame, chapters 1 through 11. Kicking it off with places, we have Zolia, the second most populous city in Breivik. This is where Cliffsbane is located. Cliffsbane is the Academy for Griffin Flyers. Ryerson House in Eratia. Shantara, the village that supplies Basgiath and is open to second years, aka Diagon Alley. Samara, the easternmost outpost of the southern wing where Zayden is stationed. Other places mentioned here are the Barrens, the Bay of Malak, Signisen, Caldir, the Stonewater River, Jana, Poramil, Athbeen, and Sapine. For characters, we have Lieutenant Colonel Aeserai, aka Brennan. This was hilarious to me because Aeserai means resurrect.
Nice.
Really?
Fun fact.
Oh my gosh.
The real pronunciation is more like Aishura. I'm probably butchering that, but Aeserai for the purposes of the book. Then we meet the Assembly, which consists of Major Ferris, aka Hawknose, Trissa with the glossy black hair, Felix, aka Silverbeard, Battle Axe, who looks like a battle axe apparently, and then Suri, the brunette with a streak of silver in her hair.
Flat and sharp.
Yeah.
Does Battle Axe not have a name yet? Did I just miss that?
Double-sided.
No, I don't think they do.
Wooden handle. What are we talking about here?
I stopped when they just said that description. I was like, what does that mean?
I don't know either, and we don't have a name yet. So. In the Assembly's meeting, we hear about Viscount Takaris, and then we formally meet Kieran, Aya, and Mason, the 3 other writers who fought at Ressin in Book 1. We also get Soleil's last name from Book 1. Her name is Soleil Tellery, and then another mention of Liam Mari, R.I.P., I love you so much. Nadine is the final member of the Iron Squad. Other students mentioned are Nasia, Nora, Jory Buell, Visia Hywelyn, Ara Beinhaven, Baylor Norris, and Misha Levin. We briefly hear about General Daramore, who ruined the land of the Barons during the Great War. We meet Professor Grady, the new RSC instructor, Major Burton Varish, the new vice commandant at Basgiath, also the worst, Auric Greycastle, a.k.a. Cam, King Towery's third son, Sloane Mari, Liam's little sister, and Catriona, the mystery person accidentally mentioned by Bodhi at the end of this section. For text and excerpts, we have public notice transcribed by Sorella Neilwort, a missive from Lieutenant Colonel de Grenzy, United Navarre, a study in survival by Grotto Burnell, curator of the Scribe Quadrant, and the gift of the first 6. For dragons, we have Marb, Brennan's orange daggertail, Imser, General Sorengale's dragon, which hasn't been mentioned since episode 1. I'm including Riddick's brown swordtail here because in book 1 they pronounce it Iotrum, and now they've switched to Atrum, and I think it stays that way. So Riddick's brown swordtail now is Atrum. And then Solas is Varish's one-eyed orange daggertail. We also learn that green dragons are known for their keen intellect and rational countenance and descend from the Wayne-Lloydsick line in the Steel Ridge Mountains.
I'm so proud of you for that.
Thank you.
I read that in the book and I was like, good luck, Connor. So glad it's not me.
Again, probably not an authentic pronunciation by any means, but that's what they say in the audio. For events and world building, we get the Luminary, which is a forging device, the Dreamless Sleep, a critical time of rapid growth and development where feathertail dragons become, as Taryn would call them, adolescents. RSC is the Rider Survival course that second years take. And then the Adept Path is the hardest of all degrees for scribes, but it is necessary for becoming curator of the Scribe Quadrant. This is the path that Jasenia is on. Lastly, quick recap of our 4 gods: Malik, the god of death; Amari, queen of the gods; Zinal, god of luck; Dune, goddess of war. Now it's time for the chapter recaps. First one of Iron Flame. Take it away, Juan.
All right, chapter 1, we kick it off. Brennan is alive and operating under an alias. He has to run off to a meeting. After he leaves, she goes after him just to find Bodhi and Imogen eavesdropping on the meeting. Brennan is talking to the members of the assembly. They discuss taking Basgiath's luminary for their own, and most importantly, the cadets going back to Basgiath. Violet and Brennan have a chat. We get a little bit about how he survived and how he came to be in Arisha. She sees their map, which reflects the truths that Navarre is hiding. The iron box they find, they think is some kind of lure. They found something similar in another outpost. Then Brennan tells her about the ward stone at Arisha, apparently dormant, has no power, doesn't do anything at the moment. And with all this new info and a lot left unsaid and learned, she must go back to Basgiath because that's the best thing that she can do for him at the moment. She goes to see Andarna, who is now huge and also black, like Taryn. I think they say has kind of like a purplish hue or like purple iridescent type of thing going on. Pretty sweet. And also now a clumsy teenager. They arrive back at Basgiath. Everything seems normal, like nobody's really missed them. Pretty much they all think they're dead. Some are thinking that they're just late with their return. They go to Liam's room, grab some letters from under his mattress. Then they run into Ree and Riddick. Violet gives the letters to Ree with a request to hide them and not burn them. And then Xaden and Violet have a very frank talk about honesty, full disclosure, or else Violet will be falling out of love. They head into formation just as their names are being read from the death roll. Everyone is clearly dumbfounded at seeing them. General Sorengale questions Colonel Atos as to why their names are on the death roll in the first place, and Atos tries to say that they should be reported for desertion. They play some mind games, spilling only half-truths about what happened, that they were attacked by griffins at the lake, being surprised and caught off guard, taking out Day and Fuel, meaning also Liam and Soleil. Atos calls lies, but Violet gets to tell it from her side in order for her mother to tell if they are indeed lying. She sells the story with those half-truths, and her mom buys it. She's going to have a talk with Colonel Atos after graduation, and he's seething at them because he knows the truth, but he can't outright claim that they've lied without exposing himself. They head back into formation, and Q Dane, wanting to touch her with the first opportunity, she gives him a very frank warning. And when Xaden whispers one word to him, Athben. Anyway.
That's exactly how it went.
Yes, that's exactly how it went. Athben, Dane goes stiff and retreats back to his spot. He clearly knows what was up. The third years get their orders, Xaden included, and then the other cadets embrace and snag up Violet with a resounding cheer for graduating. And the party begins. The group asks about the battle. Imogen says it sucked. They cheers to Liam, my Liam. Xaden shows up and Violet walks him out, running into Colonel Atos and the new vice commandant replacing him, Major Varish. You know, the guy who has trouble keeping interrogation victims alive. We learn that Xaden is posted on the front, and they receive orders from Melgren that they're allowed 2 days every 2 weeks for the dragons to visit. Basically once a week, like if they alternate those weeks. Violet and Xaden say their goodbye, Xaden giving her some warnings mind to mind before he goes. The squad takes a new class, RSC, Rider Survival Course, teaching them how to survive if they fall off their dragon behind enemy lines. You know, navigation, survival, torture resilience, the usual. This includes some evaluations and getting kidnapped. Yay, school! And then she decides to take matters into her own hands and find some answers about the ward stones in the archives. Cut 2, it's conscription day. Rhiannon and Violet are taking roll for the new cadets at the tower before they go out onto the parapet. One of them is King Tauri's third son, under somewhat of an alias. He's just using his middle name or something, I don't know. Sloane Murray steps up. And she actually has some hatred toward Violet, blaming Violet for Liam's death. But both King Tauri's son and Sloane make it across. As they head into formation and first years get their squad delegation, Dane has Sloane moved to their squad. The wing leader's dragons show up just like they did earlier in Fourth Wing. Some of the cadets freak out and run, and Solas, Varish's orange with one eye, torches them along with a few others and half of third squad. Vi protected Sloane and got her coat torched. Armor saved her, but she still got a little bit burned. After they're kind of back in formation, another cadet tries to run, and as Solas opens his mouth, Tarn shows up, bellows his threat, causing Solas to take off, letting him keep his one good eye, courtesy of Tarn. They head to battle brief. They basically get some trumped up news of outpost attacks. Might be real, but detail is most likely half-truths. From the info, Vi gets some insight into what the Flyers may have been after, some weapons. Ree talks to Violet and thinks the school may be hiding info from them. They have their assessments on the mat. Sloane wants to go at Vi, and as Nadine pretends to be Violet, that bulky first year snaps her neck. What the goodness. Vi immediately attacks, gets some hits in. He is strong and fast. He gets a grip of her neck and repeats Colonel Atos' words, secrets die with the people who keep them. And using Xaden's advice, she goes for the kidneys with her dagger, and he slumps to the ground. Close call, Vi. Xaden visits, they chat for a bit before he heads off with Bodhi. He's attempting to open up to her, and Xaden Ryerson writes Violet a letter. Ooh. She's all smiles, has a little heart-to-heart with Imogen about him, actually. Jasenia brings her a book she requested. While they're chatting, some poor second year is being dragged from the building, followed by Markham. Apparently, whoever that student was, they requested a book, and those requests get recorded. Jasenia was the one that recorded it. She thinks it's her fault. Anyway, wonder what it was. Violet has a little heart-to-heart with Rhiannon about Xaden. Riddick asks about a second black dragon, but Violet plays it off. Apparently, Kaori was overheard talking about another black dragon spotted, obviously Andarna. Varys shows up and asks Violet about Andarna. Violet plays it off, but he gives her an order that he'd like to see her at their next formation or flight thing or whatever it is. On the flight field, they are to begin learning how to complete a running landing for battle. Violet is supposed to head off to Samara with Tarn. Bodhi is seeing her off when Varys pops up again, using technicalities in the Codex to search her things before she leaves. Bodhi throws it right back at him to stick around. They find nothing, and since Vi didn't have Andarna present, she'll be facing some kind of punishment when she returns for disobeying orders. Thankfully, they don't search Tarn, who has a shipment on his back, and off they go to Samara.
Oh my gosh, so much happened in this first
Literally
chunk.
so much happened.
Yes. Thank you, Jon.
I feel like we felt the same way at the beginning of Fourth Wing. We were like, whoa. After reading it, a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah.
Well, to kick us off, I would just like to say thank you to Rebecca for giving us a little graphic at the beginning of the book that explains how the wings are structured, and you get and it's all the people and stuff, and just kind of
the little
connecting
corporate
it all
poster
for me. Yeah, I appreciated that. So
was nice.
thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, that was
Thanks,
nice.
Rebecca.
Whoa.
Editor.
Can you leave the same part but just put this over it? Rebecca. Okay.
So it says thanks, Rebecca.
Rebecca.
I mean, Rebecca.
That's funny.
All right. And here we go. We're starting it hot off the press here with the pre-chat blurb.
Pre-chat.
Pre-chat?
Pre-chat?
It's the public notice 628.85 transcribed by Cyrilla Neilwort. In this, the 628th year of our unification, it is hereby recorded that Orisha has been burned by dragon in accordance with the treaty ending by the separatist movement. Those who fled survived. Those who did not remain entombed in their ruins. It's the 628th year that this happened. So we're now in the year 634 because that happened 6 years ago.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I'm thinking like the scribe specifically is like no one asking what happened to the history in the couple hundred of years, or the scribes all acting like years 0 to 250 or whatever, just like it didn't happen, because they're always talking about like we have history dated back 400 years, and I'm like, well, okay, so if this is the 634th year, what about the other 234 years?
It took them 200 years to build the scribe quadrant. And they didn't write anything before that.
Yeah, nothing was written down.
Didn't document any of it.
Does this also mean that this person, is it Cyrilla? Is this person Jacinya's parent?
Exactly.
Yeah, I would assume like a mom or maybe like an older sister if she was like a lot older.
Yeah.
Because this was 6 years ago, and she would have probably been more than a cadet, I would assume, to record something like that. But
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, my first note for the actual chapter part is where it says, "You're welcome, by the way, for the mending." This is Brendan talking, and he says, "Consider it a 21st birthday present." And she's like, "Thank you." And she says to herself, "That's right. I slept right through my birthday." So I thought it would be a good way to kick off, a drink for Violet's 21st birthday because, she turned 21. So happy birthday, Violet. I don't think any of us are drinking alcohol tonight, but she can now. So congrats.
Unfortunately not.
nope.
Like any 21-year-old in college, spent 3 days of it passed out.
Nice.
Party hard.
My next note here, it's in Violet's point of view. She is ogling Xaden. She says, "And the carved lines of the mouth I know as well as my own all add up to make him physically effing perfect to me. And that's just his face. His body, somehow even better. And the way he uses it when he has me in his arms." And then she like cuts her thoughts off. She's like, "Nope." And I was like, "Bah, you were doing so well." No. Come back.
Go on.
I'm listening. I'm all ears.
I love that you love Xaden. It makes me so happy.
I know, me too.
I had a note for this chapter because I was editing episode 3 this week where Kyle was talking about how he always gave like obscure nicknames to people if he couldn't remember their names. It was just like, yeah, the girl with the red jacket or whatever. And I kept laughing through this chapter section thinking about like Hawknose and Silverbeard.
That's all I need.
Exactly.
He was taking the Michael Scott way of remembering people.
The only one that threw me was Battle Axe, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I was like, I had to like take a break. I was like trying to picture it.
In chapter 1.
I trying to picture it.
Maybe later when we get a better full description of all the things.
I think it's a lady.
I think it
Also
was.
female.
Yeah, I think it
That
was.
changes everything even more.
It really does.
Yeah.
I was not picturing. Wow. Okay.
I really just wanted to be one of those people that if I saw them, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Battle Axe." First thing I thought.
For sure.
That was a great description.
We need some fan art of the battle axe.
Yeah.
Okay, so Violet is in her POV thinking about, what just went down with Xaden at the end of the last book. And it says, of all the secrets Xaden hid, that's the one I can't quite swallow, meaning like the venom. And Taryn butts in and he's like, and what would you have done with the knowledge had he shared it? It's like, this is a great question. Obviously, she's upset. Sure, she has a right to be that this information was kept from her. But also, like, when would he have been able to just casually drop that bomb? And, like, would she have believed him if she didn't actually see it with her own eyes?
Yeah. I liked her response to it where she just said, "Stop bringing logic into an emotional argument." And as I read it, I was like, I feel like I've heard this somewhere before. Lauren?
Sometimes it's okay to just be upset and you don't need logic.
Yeah.
I stand by that.
I just added to that, like after her stop bringing the logic into an emotional argument, I wrote, "Oh no, logic runs the day, my lady." Even when she did hear them talking about this the first time, she was just like, "No way, this isn't real." Like she didn't even believe it then, and it took her a bit to like really come around to, oh crap, maybe they are real.
Anytime I go back to think, like, when could he have told her, my initial thought is always the time when he found her book of fables, so they, like, talk about it, like, real
yeah.
briefly.
Yeah.
But I
That's
still
true.
think if he would have told her then, she wouldn't have believed it. And then he couldn't have trusted that she wouldn't go say something to someone, thinking it
Yeah.
was just a no big deal comment, and then probably end up dead.
Yeah.
So then it makes me feel like, okay, so maybe he was right in keeping the secret, even though I was
Yeah.
mad at him.
Yeah.
But, like, it's like I see all the sides and I don't actually know.
It would be like the same thing as if someone saw you reading this book and over your shoulder were like, oh yeah, dragons, I've seen them. Like, that would be the same thing to her with the
Oh
Book
my
of Fables.
gosh,
Like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, weigh in the comments. Let us know if you think that Xaden was right to keep that secret from her, or if she would have even believed him.
It's a good one.
And also weigh in and let us know how much you weigh.
Kyle? Kyle, what?
We'll check
Sorry
in
for everyone
in
listening.
our next series. We'll weigh in again and see how we're doing.
Once John drops the Imogen leg day workout.
Yeah, there you go.
I'd love to see people just occasionally drop numbers and they're like, oh yeah, they're checking in.
You go, girl.
Anyone who's like new to our channel and stuff sees these random comments. That's just like numbers.
Why-
and
why do
so
people-
lost.
What do these mean? That's actually pretty funny. I hope that happens. Oh my gosh. all of our comments are just numbers and people are just like, what?
What?
What is going on? And they'll be like, no, you didn't watch the episode, obviously.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on.
So random.
Also, in Violet's POV, she thinks about Liam, and then her internal thoughts are just Liam. Blonde hair and sky blue eyes fill my memory, and pain erupts behind my ribs. His boisterous laugh, his quick smile, his loyalty and kindness. And I interjected, his dimples. She said, it's all gone. He's gone. It just made me so sad. I miss
Poor
him. I love him
dimples.
so much.
After Battle Axe points out Violet is a Soaringale, and Brennan says that he was as well, they respond, and you've more than proven your loyalty over the last 6 years. She hasn't. And I just wrote, I think you meant to finish that with, had the chance to. Like, she literally just learned about you guys. Give her a
Yeah.
shot, maybe.
She just got here.
She don't even go here.
Literally.
Yeah.
So, chapter 2, Violet's thinking, I think back to the naive, sheltered girl who crossed the parapet and everything she survived in the crucible of her first year to forge me into the woman I am now. This was one of those lines that just like, I feel like I have a lot of those in this chapter section, just thinking back to chapter 1 of Fourth Wing. And I love Violet as a main character so much. She's grown a lot already, and this is the beginning of book 2 out of 5. So, I'm so jazzed for the rest of her character development. She's awesome. I love her.
Same.
Right after that, Brennan holds up his hands like he's under attack, and I glimpse a rune-shaped scar on his palm before he grips the edge of the table. Brennan goes on to like say something, and his jaw flexes. So first of all, what is the rune-shaped scar? What does this mean? Why is it on his hand? Why has no one asked about it yet?
I have so many questions about that.
So many questions. And 2, his jaw's flexed. So wait, what? His jaw flexed. So cheers.
I also
got me.
highlighted this about the rune-shaped scar, and I feel like we just keep hearing about runes, but nobody's actually told what that means, and
Yeah.
I'm like, please give me more. But really, I highlighted it for the next part where it says Naolin, that's who he's talking about, Taryn's previous writer, I suggest slowly, wondering if he was more than that to Brennan. And I'm like, oh, okay,
I didn't even catch
Brennan.
that.
Brennan.
Okay.
And then like later when he's talking about, you know, do you have a family or whatever? And he goes, no partner, no kids. And he doesn't say like a wife or something. It's a partner. So maybe Brennan and Naolin were more than friends, and Naolin died to save Brennan. So he obviously cared about him a lot at some point for some
Nice
reason.
catch, Lauren.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Wow.
I'm always finding all the romance, even when they're literally mourning someone's death.
Immediately after that, Violet was speaking to Taryn in their mental connection, saying, I'm sorry your writer died saving my brother. And Taryn just says, we will no longer speak of the one who came before. And it says his voice is rough. And I just wrote, poor Taryn, a little frowny face.
Yeah.
So sad.
He's grieved, still is grieving, probably.
Yeah.
I still want to know what happened,
Oh, he died.
but I'm sad for him. Thanks. You heard it here first.
Sorry, he died. It did happen off screen, so
Yeah, but the fact
true.
that Terrence bonded a new writer.
maybe he turned venom or something. Does that sever the bond between you and your dragon if you do that? If
I
he
don't know.
took every power around him, including from the earth, to raise Brennan from the dead.
I mean,
What does that make Brennan? Just
Stunned to silence
that
and
mess up
truth.
him?
maybe. I have wondered about that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure you have.
Sure.
Sure you've wondered about it. Sure you guys don't know anything.
Interesting.
Is it my note?
It is
Oh,
your note.
sorry.
It is.
right.
Awkward silence.
Read your comment.
And right after this, a corner of Brennan's mouth lifts and he says, I miss Kaori. He's a good man. And I highlighted this because I think this is the first time we've heard anyone.
Hold on.
What? What just happened?
Kyle
I got away with it.
Kyle just tried to have a corner of his own mouth
Yeah.
lift. And he's over there looking like he's having a stroke. Like he's like literally I'm dying.
This is why I don't look at you guys while I'm reading the script. Anyway,
Okay.
I highlighted this because I think this is the first time we've heard anyone say this about anyone at Best Guide, especially leadership or faculty or whatever, that Kaori is a good man, and he's like smiling while he says it. So that was just interesting to me.
Yeah.
That makes me feel like maybe we could trust him a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, especially because we were literally just talking last episode about like, is there any good professors or any like people who
Right.
Right, yeah.
are like under the radar, know the information, but are just trying to be helpful from the inside or whatever. So maybe
Yeah.
I do feel like we get
This
a
could be
better
a
look
good
at
guy.
some of them in this, even in this chapter section.
Does he have a dragon? He does, okay.
I don't remember who it is off the top of my
Kaori?
head, but he wrote,
Yeah.
he rides with them. He rides and shows them how to do the maneuvers, and then all of them follow him and that kind of stuff.
he wrote the field guide to dragonkind,
Nice.
but I don't remember who his dragon is.
Well, who his dragon is?
I don't know.
Oh man.
Got me.
I can't wait for the episode to come out when you said Squab Quadrant, because they gave me shit in the Discord. I'm like, you know what? I was just gonna let it come out naturally. I wasn't. I almost threw you under the bus and been like, oh, just wait. I'm not gonna be the only one.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for that
I
other
told
shoe to
Lauren I'm
drop.
pretty sure we've all fallen for it at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it's been recorded
Yeah.
for all of us.
So good. Oh, I know. Those comments in Discord were great.
They were really funny. Yeah. Well, they're sort of discussing the Venom threat. We learned that we basically have a year, according to the map. But Brennan says, no, I think we have 6 months, maybe, before the Venom arrive. And it just got me thinking, like, something tells me it will be around 6 months. But the timeline will be cut short with, like, oh no, they're already here. 5 months, oh no, sort of vibe.
Oh, at least it's only 1 month short.
Right, but it'll be like one of those things where it's like, well, at least we have 1 more month to get things right. And then they'll be like, surprise, we're already here.
Yeah, I see.
Is that what the Venons sound like?
Yeah, they sound like they.
Southern gentleman.
I do believe you have our dragons, madam. Sipping tea. Oh, man.
Okay, well, last episode at the end of Fourth Wing, I was talking about the box, and it says, but the craftsmanship is Navarian. So obviously someone from Navarre made this box and put it there, which confirms some of those theories of mine of like, I guess at least we know it was someone from Navarre. But also they were saying they found another one like that in another city. And is that Jana? Is that how you say that? But it was already smashed. So they were like, why would someone from Navarre have reason to build a lure besides using the one to kill us in Resin? A little more than just to protect their own people, you know what I mean? Or like just ignoring the problem,
Yeah.
but more like trying to manipulate it in some sort of way. But then we get the conversation with Brennan and Violet continuing, where she says, do you think Dad knew? And it was like the idea of him structuring my entire existence around facts and knowledge only to withhold the most important of it is unfathomable. And Brennan says, I choose to believe he didn't. And we kind of talked about that last episode too, if the dad knew. And a part of me would be really surprised if he didn't know. Only because obviously the mom knows.
Was the question here if he knew that Venom existed?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
They were talking about what type of wyvern there are and what other information she knows because Dad gave her the Book of Fables.
Yeah.
But
I'd have to think that at least he knew that they were a thing that could exist. Maybe not had known the full threat that was present, but I don't think they were fables to him.
well, and maybe he was noticing the like years weren't matching up. You know, like we were talking at the very beginning, or something else that wasn't the full information, but was like clearly something's going on, or some information is being taken away from us. But even just Brennan saying he has to choose to believe that Dad did it makes me think a part of him probably still thinks he did, and he's just choosing to say or to tell himself that he didn't. But
Yeah.
I
feel like
give
he
him
had
the
to.
benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
You got to do that sometimes for family. Violet sort of points out that Brennan's calling their little gang a revolution, not a rebellion. She's like, oh, so you think you're going to win because you're using that word. It's sort of said to support the fact that the word itself means they think they could win. And I love to be that guy, but technically...
Actually.
One of those is just an outcome of another, not two separate things. Like, revolutions are successful rebellions, but until that success, they're rebellions. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Rebels can and often do have good causes. I appreciate them calling it what they wish to in some sort of self-fulfilled prophecy, perhaps. But still, it is a rebellion.
Yeah. Well, very similarly to Kyle's intellectual thought about this line, what was going through my head during this part was, I want a revolution, not a revelation. Now listen to my declaration.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
That is very
really
similar to my thought.
So similar. And then Brennan's jaw flexes again. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
I love how many people in the comments have been like, I can never see his jaw flexes without wanting to cheers. It's like, you're welcome. Join the club.
Segale, after they go out and meet their dragons, or I guess re-meet Violet's dragons, Segale does not like Brennan, sort of growls at him, claws out. Rubs me the wrong way. It makes sense in the aspect of him being the reason why Taryn's previous writer died, and maybe like being sort of a source of grief or a reminder to Taryn that happened.
Yeah.
But secondly, Brennan's dragon is an orange swallowtail or whatever, and all of those have a poor track record. All oranges have a poor track record in this book of being involved with douchebags, like Jack Barlow and the new guy, Varish. There was another one, I'm pretty sure, that I'm not remembering, but I feel like there was another orange that was connected to some person who was not that nice.
Wasn't it Orin from the beginning? Like he rebonded someone else's dragon? Not Orin, because he died.
Or no,
there was
yeah.
But there was someone else that Jack was with.
Jack, yeah.
Caroline
That's
Ashton. I thought
Yeah,
that
they
was a
like
red
it.
dragon.
Yeah.
Was it
Maybe.
orange?
Yeah, I'm
But
pretty
and
sure.
oranges are also like the
Gleam?
super chaotic, whatever ones.
Yeah, they're
So
unpredictable or
I
whatever.
feel like they would also bond with people who are sort of mentally breakable.
I was going to say mentally unstable.
Yes.
I agree, though. Her not liking Brennan just makes me like on guard.
Because she doesn't like bullies. That's what they said about her.
I mean, she doesn't really like Violet.
Yeah, but it's not like a claws out growling situation. It's more like a, well, I just got to deal with you sort of thing. So I don't know. We've not really seen her react to other people that much
Yeah,
because we're
that's true.
with her and Taryn so often. But
Yeah, I was trying to look up what Glean is, but I don't see the type of dragon. For some reason, I thought it was a red dragon, but maybe not. Wouldn't surprise me if it was orange.
Orange is my favorite color, so I don't know if these two things coincide.
Yikes.
I'm like,
let me answer that for you.
man.
Good thing you're not a writer.
All the orange dragons, when you're on the field, are like, "Whoa, hot dog!"
Oh my god.
I want to bond that thing.
Waiter.
Give me one of those.
I did highlight this section, though, for the same reason. I thought it was weird that she specifically doesn't like Brennan. But it does make sense, maybe, that it's because of Taryn and, like, Naolin. But, yeah, I don't know. Still sketchy.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Well, speaking of dragons' colors, we learn that Andana's scales are black.
Aw.
So I want to know, gentlemen, Are you disappointed by that? Were you expecting a different color? Did you have any thoughts beforehand? Were you just like, oh, okay, you know?
I don't know if I remember being told that her color would change. It's just
You were. We talked about it on the podcast.
Cool. I like the iridescence. The sort of that gets a cool picture in my head. I don't know if that's an adolescence thing and if she'll change to, pure black later on, but for now it's nice.
Sure.
Same.
John?
I think the iridescence is pretty sweet. I like the purplish hue. Yeah, I'm trying to think in my mind, like, it would have been sweet if she stayed gold, but at the same time, it's like, if she's already sticking out like a sore thumb and she's just getting bigger, then that would kind of suck. She'd be an even bigger gold glittery target. So, I mean, that makes sense that they would change colors. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, what color it would turn into naturally, like, what makes the most sense. I don't know. I guess I never really thought that deep into it, but I guess black makes sense.
We had a year to speculate all of these things. And so, we've had a lot of conversations of those before Iron Flame came out. So I just thought I just wanted to see if anything just naturally came to mind when you heard that her color was going away.
Well, and remind me what the options are, because, like, we know black, red, green, orange,
brown,
blue, brown, blue,
brown.
Yeah, there's
brown
6.
and blue.
And blue and brown.
And blue.
So, like, that makes me appreciate even more that, like, the iridescence is like a purple. Because there aren't any like purple dragons, so at least that's something.
Yeah, and again, like, sort of wondering if it's an adolescence thing or if she's gonna grow out of that too.
Yeah,
I hope not.
Or if she'll change colors again. I don't know how many like moltings they go through and change colors. Because I think they said like, I'm remembering now, like, she's gold because she's young. So like, I assume all dragons are metallic at least in some way or another.
Yeah.
But to answer your question truthfully, I didn't think for 1 second what color she would be. I did not come into my mind as something I should have been thinking about.
That's okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I'm proud of her though. Cool. Good job.
Proud of her.
You grow, girl.
Yep.
You grow, girl.
You've been sitting on that one all day, haven't you?
That was so good.
Cute.
Speaking of her growing up a little bit, she is sassy now, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
She is.
But Taryn sort of just grumbles adolescence in general response to her attitude. It just reminded me of Schmidt going, youths.
Yes. Incredible gift. Absolutely.
That's the best.
I got so excited when I saw that in the notes. I was like, yes, it's perfect.
Well, yeah, and he just follows it up with, they don't have patience for humans or elders or logic. Taryn is going through it right now.
Full dad
energy.
mode.
Yep.
For sure. Back to the dragon color conversation. It said not even she knew what her scales would mature into. Only the eldest of our dens can sense a hatchling's pigment. In fact, 2 more black dragons have hatched in the last year, according to Coda. So I feel like that's big news. Because there's only 2 black dragons now, I guess, and Darna. And then maybe these other 2. That feels like a big thing.
And what's interesting is that I'm assuming they hatched black.
No, I think he says he can sense the hatchling's pigment, future pigment. Maybe.
Well,
so maybe she did go gold. I don't know.
It says 2 more black dragons have hatched in the last year. So is he just saying that they'll eventually be black dragons?
Yeah, that's what I think.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Yep.
It's kind of weird that they can sense that, but they don't tell you. I don't know why Andarna couldn't know what she was going to turn into. Why wouldn't they all just be like, hey, by the way, you're going to be this to everyone? And they'd be like, neat. It doesn't change anything.
Neat. It's a surprise.
Taryn does say that the dragons hide their own information, so maybe that's one of the things that they do for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a scales reveal party when they come out of the dreamless sleep.
Like a gender reveal party?
If black dragons are supposedly super strong and powerful, I could easily see it being because if people knew a hatchling was going to turn into a black dragon, there could be other dragons that are like, no, I'm going to kill that thing before it would grow stronger than I am or something.
Yeah.
I would hope not. That'd be sad.
That would be sad.
I'm sorry. I take it back.
And we finish off this chapter with Xaden's jaw flexing. Cheers.
I'm going to have to take a bathroom break. We've had so many cheers.
These guys got some pretty strong jaws.
And we're not done.
This is only chapter 2.
And moving on to chapter 3. This is Violet thinking about Dane when she says, "It's that 1% constantly screaming at me that he used to be my best friend. That's the kicker. Yeah, you can kick him." I was like, boo.
Yeah.
Kick him.
Screw the 1%.
Yeah, that's right.
Kyle.
Okay, so last episode we were joking about the pronunciation of Athbean. We kept saying like Athben and joking about it like being Aspen with a lisp. But then I'm listening to the audiobook this week, and right here at the beginning of chapter 3, the narrator says Athben. It's usually Athbean, but there's a lot of times where she switches back and forth, and randomly in the middle of the sentence it said Athben. And I screen recorded it, put it in our group chat so everyone could hear it because I could not stop laughing that she said Athben.
I was dying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you should put it in the Discord chat for this episode.
Yes,
It's a
that's a great idea. I will do that.
Okay, well, back to Andarna's snarkiness. This is, I think, Violet's POV talking about it, but it says, Andarna counters with what seems to be her new default form of conversation, telling Taryn he's wrong. I don't know if I feel like bad for Andarna because she's like going through it and she's needing to sleep, or more bad for Taryn because he's dealing with it and all the things, or more bad for Violet because she has to hear both sides and just kind of be there. It's like all around just a lot. But it's fun.
I love it.
Yeah, it is funny. Speaking of attitude, I don't like Xaden's attitude or how he interacts with Violet here. He seems undeservedly arrogant when he's saying things like, "I can think of more than one occasion that you've been wrapped around my..." And then she cuts him off. And I was just like, yeah, no doy, dingus. I'm sure she does too. Too bad your relationship had no meaningful foundation. All you
Objection! Hearsay!
all they did was be physical. They never got close. And they're only
That's
trying
not
to
true.
now. They
That's
got
not true.
borderline conversations, but it was all just like, it was very surface level.
He was laying a solid foundation under her. You know what I mean?
Oh, hey,
Not solid enough. They broke it.
Good point.
The arm war or what?
I mean, okay, conversation-wise, that's probably fair. I just am thinking, like, their relationship day to day, the things that he helped her with, like helping her ground and learning to train, and he was having people care for her, but then he also, like, he was seeing needs that she had and anticipating them and looking for ways to help her there with, like, the saddle for Taryn and Andarna, and then, like, having the daggers made for her that would fit in her tiny little baby hands.
I get it. But it is like, it's also the fact that they've only like really been together for like maybe half a year.
Kyle, we dated for like 8 months before we got engaged. What are you talking about?
I'm not saying that I'm not saying like they need to get married right now. I'm saying that that is still like a crucial point though. Even though we dated for 8 months, yeah, we got engaged. We could have just as easily had a huge falling out and just been like, well, forget it then.
I mean, technically they're not dating right now, so...
That's fair. They're on a break.
It's true.
They were on a break.
break.
We'll get more. There's like something I'm much pickier about with Xaden later, but it does just like his cocky attitude about it, where like she is trying to get the relationship back on track, and all he's responding with is, "We're still good. Don't worry about it. Like, let's be buddy buddy." And I'm like, dude,
You
just
love
like
me.
put a little effort, answer her requests that she's giving to you, and maybe you'd see more progress.
But then he does.
We'll get there.
Week. All right, let's get there.
In this conversation, she does ask him some questions and he does say some answers, but she does end up cutting him off, says, "Don't say anything, not until I can protect myself from Dane." And his response is, "Honestly, I've considered scrapping that plan and just throwing him off the parapet." And I wrote, with Connor's note earlier of objection, I wrote, "No objection." Do it.
Get him out of here.
It would just solve a lot of problems.
I mean,
But, you know, in the conversation, too, she ends up asking, how do you do it? How do you lie to people you care about? Says their gazes collide and Xaden's jaw clenches. Vibe.
ooh.
victory cup.
Cheers.
All right, part 2.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
There's a part 3 later. That's a big doozy, but this is a little part 2.
Ooh.
Violet just says this is sort of like her, I guess you could say, ultimatum. It's complete and total honesty from now on, or I'll get busy unfalling for you. And Zayden says, good luck with that. I tried it for a good 5 months. Let me know how it works out for you. And I just wrote, this is exactly what I'm talking about. The egotistical idea that it would be impossible for her to not have feelings for you. Just because he's so infatuated with her, he assumes it must be mutual. Since she didn't have to work for his feelings, he assumes he shouldn't have to work for hers, I guess. The only one who can't get over Zayden is himself.
And me. I can't get over him.
No, same. I don't think that's what he means, but it is. I mean, it is a cocky thing to say.
It
but
is, yeah.
Yeah, but I went. I was like,
That's what I did. That's my note.
I'm sorry, John.
No, that's it. I'm so glad you did it.
He was like, I've been trying for 5 months. And I was like, oh, stop it, Zayden. You love her so much.
Literally exactly what I did.
Oh, man.
Just let them be enemies again. Enemies to
again.
lovers to enemies.
You know what? I will take this as the start of enemies if they turn back into lovers. If they turn back into lovers. But we'll see.
Ooh,
I expect this argument to go on for quite a while because they're holding each other's ground. They're not moving. Neither of them's budging. So I would say Violet more rightfully so than Zayden, but whatever.
You only have Violet's POV, and so you only have like her internal thoughts as well, and like her perspective on the world too, where we do have this one moment from Zayden, and we were just talking earlier too about like, I mean, if he did tell her, would she have ended up saying something and ended up dying? So like, was it valid for him? So yeah, he's definitely like being cocky and whatever in a kind of, I think, flirty-ish way, but maybe if we had his POV, we wouldn't feel so much like animosity maybe. And when I say we, I actually mean you. Just want to make sure that's clear. I have no problems with Zayden Ryerson.
This is more, I would say, closer to the flirty side for sure. Still bothers me. Most of my reactions are over exaggerated for the bit, but
I'm glad you admit that.
Nice.
there is something later on, I think in chapter 5 when we get to it, super bothered me because I was in a like counseling mindset for whatever reason, but we'll get into that later.
Oh boy.
So
Can't wait.
Yeah, I love it.
I feel like you kind of just caught the ick, and now everything Zayden says sounds weird to you.
No, because there's other things he says during this that I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Because they're normal things or whatever. Like, there's even something later on where I'm like, yeah, that's a good effort. It's not like the most effort you should do, but it is an effort. I think because of this, they're having this early argument, and he's like not yet learned how serious she is about needing these things. So later on, he sort of remedies that. But right now, he's stuck in this cocky, I don't know why we're not together sort of thing, because he did not experience the same earth-shaking thing that she just did.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, he's Zayden Ryerson. I have a feeling he's never really had a hard time getting a girl, or maybe never really even wanted one as much as he did Violet. And so it's like a whole him trying to figure out what a relationship is type of situation too. I just realized what Connor said.
Yep.
It was John's look. That was like, wait, what did she say? That made me think about it. But yeah, that he's, never really wanted one either. And so he's also trying to navigate this for a first time too. So maybe he's going to leave this conversation and be like, I probably shouldn't have said X, Y, and Z. And, next time.
Yeah. And I think we will see some of that as they both grow. Like I said, they're very stuck in their spot right now, and they just need to compromise. But for now, they're not. And at graduation, when they're doing the death roll, something I did like that Zayden did, whenever they're like hiding in graduation, waiting for their moment to be like, gotcha. They're reading off the death roll, and they say Zayden and Garrick's name, and Zayden walks out and says, well, this is awkward. And it just reminded me of the scene in Deadpool and Wolverine. If you haven't seen that movie, pause this, watch it real quick, come back, welcome back. The scene where they walk out, and he's just like, he has risen, baby girl, and he walks out. And the guy's like, fuck. That's how I imagine the professors reacting to them showing up.
So good. I love this scene so much.
That's good.
That's a great gift.
I do like
Chapter 4, when they're talking about the death roll and General Sorrengail questions why they were on it, a cold breeze blows past, and though it's a momentary relief from the stifling heat, I know what it really means. The general is pissed. And I wrote, Peppa, the clouds.
I wrote this same exact note. I thought it was very funny. I never realized this about the mom's, like, General Sorrengail's power before, because this is only my second read of Iron Flame, so I don't know. I was just taking it all in this time. And so it was just like ice on the front of the stage and everywhere she was, and as soon as she left, it all went back to normal. It's just like, I never have noticed that about her power, and I thought it was really funny.
It does make me wonder, is like, she must be in constant control then, if like the slightest thing can throw her
good
off
point.
like that.
Yeah.
Must be just like a constant connection to the winds. I was relieved, although not entirely convinced, that Mama Sorrengail seemed to not be in the know, or not be in on the most recent atrocity committed by Besgaiath. Like, I'm not convinced she's wholly innocent, but at least maybe this one she wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was heated. I was mad at this line when Colonel Atos, like, after her mom leaves the dais, and he says to Violet, "You're such a disappointment, Violet." And I don't know why that, like, one specific line just, like, really fired me up, because she grew up around this man. Like, it's her best friend's dad, all growing up. She thought she knew him really well, but, like, this was so hateful and manipulative of him. If my kids grew up around somebody and they said that to them in like a manipulative, that made me mad. I think more as a mom than than anything. I mean, I already didn't like him, obviously. He does a lot of crappy stuff in this book, but I just that made me mad.
And then they're kind of getting back into formation after all of this, and she says, "I can handle Dane. A swift kick to the balls wouldn't be uncalled for, would it?" And I wrote, "It most certainly would not." Please continue. Please do that.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. And when he finally does meet her, I think he gets like 3 words out saying hello before she yells, "Touch me and I swear to the gods I'll cut your effing hands off and let the quadrant sort you out in the next round of challenges, Dane Atos." And can I get a womp womp for my guy Lil D?
Hey, Lil D. I love it.
That's amazing.
Henceforth be known as. Very nice. I like it.
Oh, that's so
great.
good.
Got wrecked.
Well, and Xaden follows that all up with was, "She's made her choice and it wasn't you. It will never be you. I know it. She knows it. The whole quadrant knows it." And I was like, oh, tell him.
Get him.
I was just so happy with this just because, like, I spent a year just being mad at Dane Atos and not knowing where this book was going after reading Fourth Wing. And so it was just, like, so satisfying that other people were telling him my feelings, because I can't actually tell him my feelings. So I really appreciate that.
That's a really interesting point, because, like, you keep saying that, waiting a year between.
It was 6 months, actually.
Oh, is it really?
Felt like a year to her.
It felt like way longer than 6 months.
And technically, you didn't read it until July, so it was just July to
No.
November.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
I
That was a
promise.
whole year.
But for like John and I, finishing the book one day and then literally like we had yesterday to read all of these chapters.
Yeah.
That's a totally different experience. We didn't wait
Yeah.
at all. It was like right into it. So yeah, we don't have, I guess, that sense of wonder
Festering
as much.
hatred.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one.
I did try to make a little list before Onyx Storm came out of like all the things people were speculating about before Onyx Storm, so that after Iron Flame we can like bring up some of those and ask if you have any thoughts on those. So
Good.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but this whole conversation ends, and it's Ree who says, "That was interesting." She whispers at my side, her eyes puffy and red. And she had just learned about Liam like right before this moment. And so that's my assumption, is that she was crying for Liam. And it makes me sad. And love Ree even more, just because I can relate.
She's the best.
Liam was the best.
Yeah.
Well, you know what'll help lift your spirits is a good candle. And you all know I'm obsessed with mood reader candles. I literally have one lit all the time, like right now, actually. But there's just something about pairing the perfect candle with the perfect book that makes reading that much better. Whether you're diving into a dark fantasy, swooning over a slow burn romance, or solving a twisty murder mystery, Mood Reader Candles has a scent to set the mood. And because we love you, you can get 10% off your order with the code FRIENDS10 at checkout. This code doesn't apply to bundles or already discounted items, but trust me, you need these candles in your life. FRIENDS10, grab yours now at moodreadercandles.com.
Nice. I have my peach ring candle going right now.
Yeet.
We need to get some more.
Yeet.
Peaches.
Peaches.
So chapter 5, this little pre-chap,
Preach up.
Good job.
this whole intro to Major Varish is just so encouraging for the future of
Uplifting.
whatever's going to happen with all
Love
of
'em.
them.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
It's gonna be crazy. Oh yeah, this is the party after graduation. They're kind of hanging out, they're drinking. The squad's talking about needing a more varied group of sexual partners because it's getting incestuous. And I wrote, this is the second time we've seen this word, and I hope it's the last. Please.
Those conversations are only like a week apart. It's like, guys, come up with a new word.
Yikes.
At this point, I'd be like, you keep saying that. Are you into that?
know
Or
what
like,
that
are you
means?
trying to
Like-
incestuous? Am I right? That'd be horrible, right, guys?
They're like low-key trying to just feel everybody out
Yeah.
by using that word. Everybody's like, oh yeah, dude, yeah. And you're like,
Not something I ever thought we'd joke about on the podcast.
No.
anyway, let's move on from that, shall we?
Let's move on from that. Part of their conversation as well, there was just a quick line where Violet was like, what is this downtime you speak of? And I was like, relatable. Girl, so relatable.
And then I forget what exactly she's thinking about with stuff they're saying, like,
They're like celebrating not having to do their...
their chores. That's
chores,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
their chores. So they're like their daily
breakfast duty
chores
or
or whatever.
whatever.
And she says, I'll never push another library cart with Liam. And I was just like, not ready to read that at all.
No.
It's like, boy, that one hit hard.
Yeah.
And then she's also kind of reflecting on how other officers looked at marked ones when they were at Montserrat. And she says, then again, given what I know now, everyone is right not to trust them. So this was my first reaction to that. I was like, I mean, that seems like a bit of a stretch because they're like, yes, it's a rebellion, but from what we know now, it seems to be like a pretty good cause. So like, I get that they're all being like secretive and hiding stuff. I don't know. That was just my first like kind of thought.
She's
there.
just hurt.
She is
Yeah.
all around, you know.
Yeah.
Hurt people hurt people.
That's right.
Yep.
And then I think it's Riddick, as they're like talking about stuff. I think it's Riddick that asks them about what it was like facing real battle when they were
it's
out.
Nadine.
Or it is Nadine. I think you're right. And Darna speaks to Violet. She says they should mind their own business. And Darna counters, her voice gruff as though settling to sleep. They're all better off not knowing. And I just love this edgy side of Andarna now. It's like a jaded emo teenager. And like, it's so great. I love it. Oh, it's so fun.
like my heart.
Like super over dramatic, like blowing everything way out of proportion and stuff. I love it. Love the
That's
vibe.
the best. I was also cracking up when Violet has several drinks, like with her friends, and then Xaden shows up, and in her POV it says, mixing alcohol and Xaden is definitely not a good idea. Or is it the best idea? It's like, get it, Vi, okay.
And I had to put in the GIF. The first thing that made me think of was the Jack Nicholson GIF where he's like smiling and like slowly nodding his head.
Yeah.
Or is it the best idea? Like, yes, the best idea.
And Xaden says, I think in her mind directly, whatever's going through that beautiful mind, I'm here for it. And I just wrote, so long as you don't want anything from mine. That's fair, right?
Kyle. Let him flirt.
Let the enemies become lovers.
Well, let me hate while he's an enemy.
That's fair. All right.
As long as you promise, if they get back together, you can get back together with your love for Xaden.
We're lifting Xaden up on a pedestal. Kyle's just like slicing off at the bottom. He's got a samurai sword at the bottom. Just
Speaking of putting Xaden on a pedestal, this also cracked me up.
Oh, yeah.
When Violet sees Xaden across the room and to the squad, she's like, I'll be right back. And Riddick goes, I certainly hope not, or you'll destroy all my fantasies when it comes to that one.
I know.
yeah, it threw me for a loop, too.
I'm obsessed with him.
My jaw dropped. I was like, oh, okay, Riddick. I mean, same, but like.
Yeah.
Come back with the deets, girl.
Oh, I love him. And then she addresses Xaden as Lieutenant Ryerson, and I wrote, hot. That was my whole note. That's it. That's the tweet.
Yes, and as they're standing there, it says, he looks me over lazily, his gaze heating as though he's remembering what I look like naked, and my pulse leaps. I just wrote, Tin Hut! Standing at attention.
Oh my gosh. Because he's a lieutenant. He's in the army.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. It's a military thing.
For my next note, I need to read a little bit more, I guess, context into this conversation that Vi and Xaden are having.
Is this part 3?
This is part 3. This is the big one.
Oh boy.
He's like, I guess that you're not offering a place in your bed. And she says, I'm not nearly drunk enough to make that lapse in judgment, I assure him as he opens a door to the rotunda. I told you I don't sleep with men I don't trust. And if you're not offering full disclosure, I shake my head and immediately regret it, nearly losing my balance. And he says, I'll earn your trust as soon as you realize you don't need full disclosure. You only have to have the guts to start asking the questions you actually want answers to. Don't worry about the bed. We'll get back there. The anticipation is good for us. He smiles, really effing smiles, and it almost makes me rethink my decision. I tell you not together because you won't give me the one thing I need, honesty, and you counter with, it's good for us? I scoff and walk down the stairs. The arrogance. And he says, confidence is not arrogance. I don't lose the fights I pick, and we're both allowed to have boundaries. You're not the only one that gets to set rules in this relationship. And I was in a counselor mindset, and that set off a lot of red flags, which I had to write on paper because I wasn't near a computer. So I have my little note here about exactly what he said, and I was going to break down why this was my breaking point for Xaden, that I fully switched over to
Red
Team
flag
5.
diary. Red flag diary.
So I would like to start with her because she does have some downsides to what she said. She used something called absolute framing, which she said, I don't sleep with men I don't trust, which is a firm, healthy boundary, but may come across as like a line in the sand with no invitation to further discuss it. And she also used assumption of intent, which just saying arrogance, instead of saying like, that feels dismissive of my needs, which is super corny. All counselor stuff sounds corny. But instead of saying arrogance, his comment is dismissive, but labeling it as arrogance would put him on the defensive instead of asking something like, why is withholding things from me good for our relationship? It's focusing on his personality over his behavior. Like, focus on the things that he's doing instead of what he's doing. But he redefined her boundary instead of respecting it. She clearly states she does not want to sleep with men she doesn't trust, and that trust for her requires honesty, and that's a boundary she sets for herself, what she will or won't do or engage in based on her needs. And instead of acknowledging that, he reframes trust as something she should accept on his terms, saying, you don't need full disclosure. Is not him setting a boundary, it's him telling her that her boundary is unnecessary. And then he positions her need for honesty as a flaw rather than a valid argument. When he says you only have to have the guts to start asking the questions you want answers to, he subtly shifts the responsibility onto her, implying if she doesn't trust him, it's her fault for not asking him the right questions, not for him withholding information. And it also suggests that trust should be built by her adjusting to his terms rather than him providing the honesty she needed. Turn page.
Oh, there's more.
He justifies pushing past her boundary with what's good for us. By saying, don't worry about the bed, we'll get back there, the anticipation is good for us, he assumes the relationship will sexually move forward regardless of any concern she has. This dismisses her agency. He's treating her boundary as an obstacle to be waited out rather than something that must be met with change. And the final part, we're both allowed to have boundaries is a counter move, not a boundary. Boundaries are about defining what you will or won't do. If he said, I don't share everything with a partner until I feel safe and I understand that if it doesn't work for you, would be a boundary. Instead, he's saying, you don't get to be the only one setting the rules, which frames her boundary as a power move rather than an expression of need, and suggests he's not mutually setting boundaries, but is playing tug of war for control. And all of that is gaslighting diet. It's not true gaslighting because he's not rejecting her reality and like substituting something else or making her feel crazy, but he's dismissing her reality by saying you don't need disclosure. He shifts the burden onto her. He's future faking, saying we're going to have sex no matter what, basically. And then reframing control as fairness, saying we're both allowed to set boundaries. And I don't like any of it. And that's my red flags for Zayden.
Red flag diary. Go off, Kyle.
Yes.
Okay, I'm here for this. I'm totally I'm on board. Also, I think this is great, honestly, because this is chapter 5 of like a 66 chapter book. So we're starting with like room to grow.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for both of them,
But
like
there
I said.
is.
But more, I feel like he had more, at least to me, red flags I noticed than what she had right now. She's literally, she's setting a boundary healthily, respectfully asking for it. And he's ignoring it, refuting it. Like I said, he's pushing for control by setting his own false boundary that surpasses hers. But yeah, that's it.
Gaslighting. Gaslight
Nice work,
light.
Kyle. That was
Gaslight.
sweet.
Diet Gaslight by Zayden.
Gaslight light.
Light gaslight.
Now we need a red flag diary shirt and merch. Especially
Red
since
flag
you had a
diaries.
literal red notebook for that.
I honestly, that was a happy accident. I grabbed a notebook in the dark and was like just writing it.
It's incredible.
I love it. I love the analysis. I hope we get more of those.
Yep.
I know, I hadn't gone full counselor mode on anyone yet, so he's the first.
Very nice.
You never forget your first.
I like, when I took counseling, I guess you could say specialized in couples counseling. So that's why this specific conversation, I feel like we are getting more very coupley conversations in this series. So that's sort of why it's set it off.
And it's setting up a lot more. I'm sure we'll be back.
To the red flag diary.
I'll keep it handy.
And then, as they are walking out, they run into Colonel Atos and Varish. Atos kind of introduces Varish, saying, "This is your new Vice Commandant, Major Varish." And I immediately went, "Oh, shirt," especially from that pre-chat blurb. I was like, "Oh no, this is not going to end well, definitely." So he is replacing Colonel Atos. Yeah. And then to kind of end the conversation, kind of like a warning / threat, he says to Violet, "Secrets make for poor leverage. They die with the people who keep them." And this is obviously, I wrote this note obviously before knowing what was going to happen, and I thought this was such a stupid threat, and I was like, "Ooh, good one, bud." And then it comes back to haunt me in the later chapter as we find out.
Maybe it'll come back to haunt him. It'll be like one of those things she says to him.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yes. And then we move into chapter 6. We're talking about Taryn here. He's not liking being apart from Sigeo. And Darna makes a comment. She says, "You've lost all touch with reality if you think I'm getting close to him right now. He's in a mood." And this was another just like teenage angsty comment. And I just put LOL and Darna. So I just loved it.
Love her.
Well, Ree comes up to Violet and says, "I've got good news and bad news. What do you want?" And she says, "I want bad news first. That's my new motto." And she says, "Atos is our new wing leader." Ugh.
Dane.
Freaking Dane.
Lil D.
Of course. Lil D.
But the good news is that Ree is our new squad leader. Yay! Go Ree!
Big fan of that one.
And her first command as squad leader, she glances over each one of us and nods as though coming to a decision and says, "Live." And I just wrote, "She's doomed you all."
Oh, no.
I wrote, "This feels oddly familiar. Would be a shame if ...
Oh, my gosh. Well, and then it like goes into whenever they're like getting the fire or whatever by Varish's dragon. Just takes them all out. That would have been a moment.
That'd have been crazy.
Ugh.
All right. And into chapter 7. In their new class, they're talking about like this new classroom that they've never been in with the RSC or whatever. And then Nadine comes in and they basically like repeat what they just said. Nadine says, "How have I never been in this room before?" And Violet says, "We've never been second years before." And I'm like, am I going crazy? I had to like go look back to Rick's conversation because they literally just said the same thing. So it's just kind of like a funny little moment there.
Yeah, and then they go into this new classroom, and it's the one they've never seen before. And then it was like they all said the same thing again. And I was like, am I crazy? How have I never seen this room before?
They've never been second years before.
Oh,
That explains it.
It's like that scene in our favorite movie.
Nice.
You can say that again.
And then they are talking about all the things that they're going to learn in this class. One of the sentences just kind of ends with, "and also how to withstand interrogation in case of capture." So torture. And I was like, oh, how fitting that they mentioned this since Varys just showed up. It's like, no doubt we'll be seeing someone getting interrogated, quote unquote, by him. And he'll probably mock whatever they've been like learning in class to like fight through being tortured. He's probably going to be like, okay, what you learned isn't going to help with what I do to you. I can see that happening.
Oh, you're only in beginners?
Right, yeah.
well, and then they like start questioning. The professor says you have to pass interrogation in order to continue at the college. And they're like, what does that mean? Especially for like someone who's already bonded. Like, are they just going to kill the person or something? Or like,
probably
you can't just get kicked out. So,
Right.
Yikes.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be
that's
intense.
Yeah. And I just wrote, Vi's gonna get herself or Jasenia or both of them into deep doo-doo for her research, isn't she?
Lib doo doo.
Lib doo-doo.
Lib doo-doo. Yes, I forgot to change the color of that. Yes, and like on the topic of Violet deciding not to stand idly by and start digging into archives information. Yes, I imagine it will most likely draw unwanted attention eventually. But also, I'm like all for her decision on this. I'll probably eat my words, but like, I'm glad she's not just standing idly by and like, I don't know, like waiting for orders or just like waiting for that next shoe to drop or something like super major happens and she just is kind of just stuck twiddling her thumbs or whatever it is. So I'm glad she went down this route.
Yeah. I guess the only solace I could take for Jasenia is that she wrote this. So
yeah, right.
She's got to make it a little further.
Good point. I've not thought of that. But it does make sense, though, for Violet to do this as well. Like, obviously, she came up with the plan and stuff, but even if it was, like, Xaden's plan or someone else's who's in charge, she makes the most sense to be the person consistently going into the archives and requesting books, especially ones that would be of all sorts of topics, since she's not a marked one or, you know, all the other reasons. So...
And then I just loved, this is another one of my little paragraphs I highlighted about Violet's character growth, but where she's in the archives and she thinks, gods, I miss this place. I miss what I thought my life would be. Simple, quiet, noble. But I don't miss the woman I was, the one who didn't know her strength, the one who believed everything she read with unfailing confidence, as if a simple act of writing something on a blank page made it gospel. This is just another really great character development moment from her, showing how far she's come since the beginning of book 1. And I just love that. And I feel like this is so relatable too, looking back on previous seasons of your life and thinking like, holy crap, I can't believe how much stuff has changed. But I also don't necessarily miss the person I was when I thought my life was going to turn out a different way. But I like the writing there.
It is very relatable. I feel like I used to think that a lot in college because I went to a community college and then left for like 3 or 4 years and then went back to college and did the whole thing. But during my break, I was like traveled almost all of Western America. I went to like UK and Ireland and all those like places overseas. So sometimes in college, I'd be like, man, it kind of sucks to be like one of the older people here who like I can't really relate to all these freshmen or whatever. And I felt like I was in the wrong place in my life. But then I had to be like, I did travel the world though, so I'm kind of glad that I did that and I appreciate that experience. But
and you met me.
Yeah, that was good.
And me.
Yeah. Rude.
I meant the before college. The during college, especially the first couple of years, like being whatever I was, 20-something, with a bunch of like just out of high school people, basically. It's kind of awkward.
Well, you married one of them, so.
I know. You snuck in
Joke's
there
on you.
last minute. I literally went into college saying, I'm not making friends, I'm getting a degree. And then I left with a wife.
Ew.
And we're still not friends, so he was right.
Just marry me.
Said no friends.
All right, and moving into chapter 8. Well, they're at the tower at the parapet. Violet says, I lock my shields in place just like Zayden taught me and fantasize about shoving Dane off the tower. And I just put, LOL, what a shift. What a perspective change here. Holy cow.
And it is one I am here for.
Yes.
I am
Absolutely.
all about this Dane
Oh,
hate.
so good.
I was really happy for this conversation, and I honestly don't remember who was the other person talking. I didn't write it in my notes, but I know obviously it's with Violet. But they were saying you would have thought your mother would have held off the storm last year, considering you were crossing, talking about the parapet. And she's like, clearly you didn't know my mother. She wouldn't call the storm to kill me like a coward, but she sure as hell wouldn't have stopped it to save me either. And I just appreciated this because we have talked about, and I have also speculated about the mom and the storm that happens conveniently only when Violet's on the parapet. And obviously this is still speculation, but I appreciate that someone else actually in the book is also like, isn't that kind of weird, like, that this happened and not just us reading the book? So then people start coming to cross the parapet, and Violet recognizes someone, says Cam, and he says it's Auric Greycastle. And then later we learn that it's King Tari's third son, which is just like wild that one of his sons is there, and that the king knows nothing about that he's just like snuck off to join the writers quadrant, which once you're in, you either become a writer or you're dead. So that's some big stuff. But it's just the funny thing of thinking like he's just sitting there at the palace wishing to go to be a writer, and he's like, I gotta come up with another name. Well, the walls are gray, and it's a castle, Gray Castle. Yeah, that would make a great name. Let's go with that. Like, it's like so creative.
I love that
makes fun of
Violet
him.
roasted them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that she roasted him for it too. She's like, did you just come up with that? Because that's awful.
I know. It's so funny.
Starts crying. No.
Oh, and then okay, so Sloane enters the chat in this
Yes, she
chapter.
does.
This was one of those things that prior to the release of Iron Flame, obviously there were a lot of theories being thrown around, a lot of expectations for the book, and one of them that was so common, at least from what I saw, was that like we were expecting Sloane and Violet to like be besties and bond over their love for Liam. So we went into this book thinking like, oh, Sloane's gonna get the letter, she's gonna know that like Violet's great and they were close friends and whatever, and Sloane shows up absolutely hating Violet's guts, which was crazy. But one of the things that Violet first says to her to like help her get across the parapet like made me a little emotional, because it was like word for word what Mira said to her a year ago. And so not knowing at this point that Sloane hated her, she just goes up to her and starts their whole interaction by saying like, arms out for balance, don't let the wind sway your steps, word for word what her sister said to her. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. I can't believe like this is the same thing. It's like sisters, whatever. And then she turns around and goes, go straight to hell. And I really mean that. I hope no one commends your soul to Malik. I hope he rejects it. Liam was worth a dozen of your kind, and I hope you spend eternity paying for what you cost me, what you cost all of us. That was like such a slap to the face, I feel like, as a reader, like thinking that they were going to be besties in this book. Really caught me off guard on the first read.
There was also a lot of speculation if Sloane would be deaf, or how did Liam know how to sign? Like, he just does it and there's no explanation. And then, like, in this chapter chunk too, we see Imogen can just sign as well. So, like, is that just a regular thing in this world that people can just do that? Or is it, like, some other reason that at least these two marked ones can sign? But that was, like, a big speculation too, is that maybe
I forgot
Sloane's
about that.
deaf, or, you know.
Gods forbid they have a hobby. I mean, come on. They can... The only thing that bothered me was like, I don't know if she's doing it just so like Sloane doesn't turn her in or something, but like throughout this section, it's been days, and I'm like, why have you not given her the letters yet? I feel like that would be almost an immediate thing that you'd want to do. But I don't know if she's doing it because like Sloane could very easily be like, oh, she kept this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and have her.
She hates her. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do they get like big trouble if they keep something, or is it more just like, you're not supposed to do that, go throw it in the fire?
For Violet, probably big trouble, seeing as how much of the faculty hates her.
Yeah.
So
in her current predicament.
yeah.
Okay, something I didn't expect, though, from this section is that once Sloane does make it across the parapet, there's this quick little moment where Violet says, "She made it, I whisper to Liam. And then I take the next name." And that's like the end of that section. It made me cry. I'm on the cry counter this week, you guys.
Nice.
Crying for Liam. Nice.
How many times in your life do you think you've cried for Liam?
At least 5 at this point.
So many.
That is a lot for a fictional character.
Oh, no, wait, maybe more. It might be 6.
You are one to talk,
I was gonna
Lori.
say.
That's a lot for a
Over
fictional
one?
character.
One?
Yeah, how many times you've cried over one character? Yeah.
But this also, I've read the first book 4 times, so this is my second time reading the second book, so.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But I don't think I cried here on my first read. It just caught me off guard this time for some reason. I don't know. I was just like, Liam. Anyway, also just excited here because we find out Sawyer is Ree's executive officer. That was her choice as the squad leader. I love that. Go Sawyer. Especially since he was a repeat. Yeah. Now he's an executive officer. Good job, buddy.
You're doing it.
You're doing it. And then quick God's Watch. This was in Violet's POV as she's thinking back to what Sloane said to her. And it says, "I've danced with Malik more than my fair share over this last year and told him to fuck right off every single time. Maybe Sloane is right and he doesn't want me." Okay, God's Watch, I guess. Maybe it's possible for Malik to just reject someone. I don't know.
Maybe. So they get to formation and the dragons come to like scare the first years and see who's going to run away or whatever. Kath, Dane's dragon, is one of the ones because he's a wing leader. And it says Dane really needs to check Kath's teeth because there has to be a bone stuck in there decaying or something. Like, not only is she going after Dane, now she's going after Kath. Like, Violet is just really after them right now.
Bringing them both down.
Poor Kath.
And then we get the moment when Varish's dragon, Solas, takes out the runners, the ones that are trying to get out of there. And he just kind of like lets her rip, takes out the runners, one of Violet's squad's first years, and then half of third squad. And my jaw was on the floor. I just like wasn't expecting this at all. Yeah. Especially the fact that it like has literally no regard for anything. It's just like...
And he was about to do it again.
I know. Yeah. So that was just like huge. But then my other note here was Arik covering the random redhead first year and like helping her to her feet. He like covers her from Solas's fire. And I was like, big fan of him already just because of this. I hope he doesn't turn into be kind of a douche. Like maybe he'll fill Liam's shoes a little bit in some ways. We'll see what happens.
Like he'll be on team My Parents Suck.
Sure. Yeah.
But like they're like good, but like their
like
parents suck.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yes. I know what you're saying.
Like Violet and Xaden and all that.
Yes.
But with this, when Taryn comes in and he says, if Solas ever comes near you again, he knows I will devour his human whole and let him rot within me while his heart still beats. And then I'll take the eye I so graciously left him. So first of all, there's some previous beef between the two of them that I would love to know more about.
Absolutely.
But like, what a line. Insane. Something I didn't pick up on before, I had highlighted this previous thing earlier in the chapter, like really early in this chapter. And then I just highlighted because I thought it was funny because it's about Riddick and I love Riddick. But then this like line later and I was literally cracking up. So earlier in this chapter, it says Riddick counters like some joke or whatever with a grin, shaking his head in a way that makes the new collar of his uniform move, but not the tall spikes he has somehow gelled in his dark hair in today. And that's just for funny to me, thinking he's there with all these spikes. And now after Solas takes them all out, it says Riddick runs his hands over the flattened, singed peaks of his hair.
I did not catch that. That's hilarious.
I didn't either. It was just like, and very coincidental. I highlighted that first part because I thought it was funny. And then that second part, so like literally he's got all these gelled spikes. He comes in like a goofball idiot. And then they're all singed off. That felt so sitcom to me. You know,
yes.
like, And like little smoke still coming off of his head or something.
The opposite of Frosted Tips.
The real thing that Solus was going for. He's like, I hate those spikes.
Your hair looks stupid. Roasted.
Speaking about him again, though, it kind of makes me think like the one eye thing. I wonder if that'll come into play later. Like if they have to sneak by and he's just like on his blind side or something.
Heading into chapter 9, my first note from this chapter is something that will come back up a little bit later. Imogen like meets Violet outside and she's going for a run and they're talking about it. And Violet's like, you know, like, why are you awake? Did Xaden send you to spy on me now or whatever? And she says, relax, Xaden doesn't know. My room is right above yours. And let's just say I'm not sleeping very well either. Later on, we learned that Violet's room is warded for like sound too. Like her room is soundproof. So like, why would that be a point that like Imogen, her room is right above Violet's? Because she's making it sound like I can hear that you're awake or something.
Maybe she heard the door close.
Maybe? I don't know. But if she's also not sleeping well because of Resin, then I guess like, sure, she's awake. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
Isn't the ward on her door though? Maybe it doesn't cover like the room.
I thought it was the whole room, but maybe it's just
I thought it was just the entry because he's like, you can, you know, take people to and from whatever you want. I don't care. And it's soundproof, but.
Yeah, I don't know. Just thought it was interesting. I just highlighted that and I was like, isn't her room warded?
Maybe he didn't cover the ceiling.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe he left it so that Imogen could hear specifically to like
because
have
her room's
another
above
guard or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. Oh, and then there's another comment here about how Violet's noticing that like Bodhi's farther back and starts our way. His walk is so similar to Xaden's stride that I almost do a double take. And all the times that they talk about how similar Bodhi looks to Xaden, like makes me so nervous that something's going to happen to Bodhi because someone confuses him with Xaden or something. I just keep getting nervous about that.
Especially after what happens to Nadine, which is basically the same thing except for like, you know, she's saying she's Violet and then she dies.
Right.
Aw, poor Bodhi. We also get that pre-chap blurb about Bodhi that he's like always perpetually one step behind or whatever. And I was like, oh, poor Bodhi. Deserves better.
Feels a little ominous the more they bring it up. And then I just love Imogen and the start of like their little friendship here where she's like digging into Violet for answers about why she was saying that she wouldn't make it. And Violet finally opens up a little bit about just feeling vulnerable in the sense that like she's not fast enough to catch up to Taryn or whatever on a battlefield. And Imogen says, yet. We're not fast enough yet, but we will be. Let's go. It's like, yeah, let's go, Imogen. I just love her. She's awesome. My last note for this chapter was just, they are all talking about, because they're second years, Riddick's like, look at all those first years with their quills and ink. And they're like kind of making fun of the first years. But this just still feels so random to me. And I can't believe we didn't get a scene of Violet writing with her new magic powered ink pen for the first time. So this conversation just made me.
Yeah, that's the bonus chapter we needed.
It is. I'm like, I wish we had something because there was so much build up to that. And it was so funny. And now they're like making fun of first years who are writing with quills. And that was just a little side note.
Well, with Violet kind of on her little snarky thoughts streak, but not towards Dane this time. This is when Markham comes in to battle brief and it says, my muscles lock and I fight the urge to flick one of my daggers into his traitorous back. He knows everything. He has to. He wrote that effing textbook on Navarian history that all writers are taught from. So glad, first of all, that she's realized this. As I'm like, she's finally connected all the pieces. And also just like a very violent reaction, which I guess fits her because that's her nickname or whatever.
Living up to her nickname.
Yeah. She's like building all this frustration and she's going to actually throw a dagger. Something's actually going to happen. And it's like, I don't know. Ooh. Girl needs to take a deep breath.
So this next part is when they're talking about one of the attacks. And they're talking about how some of the griffins were killed on site or burned on site. Riddick mentions, he says, that's what they get going after civilians. Violet thinks, but were they? Markham didn't mention civilian casualties, only destruction. And I was like, I love that she's already questioning the things that they're telling them. Love it. And then this is after she questions the tactic of attack that's similar to what they experienced at Montserrat. It's like Markham's response, specifically his facial response. It says, the smile on his face is anything but friendly as he pushes off the desk, clasping his hands behind his robes as he nods at me. And I was like, this is super interesting because I was trying to think, like, what facial expression, what is this describing? Like, anything but friendly. Is it like a threatening facial expression? Like, I just couldn't wrap my head around what this meant. Was he like upset at her asking this? I don't know.
I also highlighted it though, because I felt like, okay,
nice.
There's some animosity there of
Yes.
some sort, you know? I don't know what it is, but...
And maybe it's like Markham is colluding with Atos too, so like there are a couple of them that know what happened, so they know about Xaden and the team.
He's getting all the scrolls that are coming from the scribes. Like, she had to deliver him one that they didn't even like talk about in battle brief.
But you got to figure that he knows
something.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
he
much.
literally rewrote the history textbook.
Yeah.
So he's
for
probably
writers.
in on it.
And now he knows that she knows because she was in Ressin.
Yeah,
And he knows,
that's
like,
what I think.
that
yeah.
she was there. But he doesn't know if she knows that he knows that she knows.
Okay, all
you
right.
know?
Kyle, your turn.
I was just gonna say I pictured his expression as like just blank animosity. You know how like I guess when you truly don't like or care for someone and your face just shows no emotion except for the fact that I am physically making eye contact with you but otherwise feel nothing is
Yeah,
what I
okay.
picture.
I like that. I think this is pretty much her like ending that thought process like toward the end of the battle brief. But she said, but maybe the whole report is wrong. Maybe it was a wyvern and venom attacking, not griffins. Maybe this entire presentation is a well-crafted lie. And I said, yes, sir. Like, hit the nail on the head. This is probably what they've been doing. Well, obviously, when she caught that scroll earlier and they came battle brief and they didn't hear anything about it. So obviously, like, they're not being forthright about everything in the battle brief. They're just kind of like making up half-truths and some scenarios mixed with truths and stuff.
Yeah. Which is interesting, though, because Devera was there. Wasn't this the conversation where, like, she had a wound
She had a
from the
little-
battle? Like,
she had a little like gash on her bicep, across her bicep, or something like that.
Yeah. And I thought Devera was cool, so now I'm, like, questioning that, too.
Yeah, I mean, she could have gotten that from like maybe not a venom, but maybe like a wyvern or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And not a
But, like, she
griffin or
obviously
flyer.
knows what happened because she
Right.
was there. So
Yep.
if that is a lie, then she would be in on it, too.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, and it very well could also be the truth. Like, we literally have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
And you have to think that some of these people too were like she may still be good, but she knows just enough for them to blackmail her into not saying
yeah.
anything.
Right.
She has to be in on it just
Yeah.
to survive. Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of
true.
those going around, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
I
Yeah,
do
100%.
think that it took way too long, I think, for Violet to consider the possibility that the whole class was a lie. Like, just coming from having this revealed to you, and, like, it was like a page and a half of her being like, yeah, they would do this in this battle and whatever. And, like, finally, like John said, was like, wait, this could not be true. And I was like, thank you. Like, you literally just found out the secret. You should be thinking that immediately for any information you're getting.
Yeah.
for her, for being like a scribe brain, and she's used to her whole
Yeah.
life just sitting down and everything she's told is the truth. And so she just kind of went into like Vi in class mode, you know, and it was just like, okay, here I go, take the notes, and then be like, wait, hold on a second.
I guess I took
actually
it
know
as
all this
like,
other stuff.
because earlier she said like just because it's written doesn't make it gospel. So I guess from then on I expected her to act on that sort of mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if it's partially like it's taking some time for her view on those relationships to change too, because she knows Markham and has
that's
known
true.
him or known of him for a long time and trusted him. So then it feels like this is the first time that she had such a visceral reaction to him walking in. Feels really extreme, but like she had an established relationship with him and really trusted him. And he was supposed to be training her in the scribe quadrant and
She
stuff.
was supposed to be, his like number
Yeah.
one student or whatever.
Right.
Violet says it's hard for prisoners to talk about venom that they've been fighting if they're dead. Like, oh yeah, convenient that they all just happen to die or whatever. The whole thing is messed up. But she leaves Battle Brief and she starts having this conversation with Bodhi. And first of all, Bodhi is so underrated as a character in just general. I'm freaking loving this guy. I never really felt that way on my first read, but like, I don't know what it is about Bodhi right now. Big fan. But on this moment, it was like they're just talking and he just shrugs and scratches a pen into his cast on his arm just because it was, and that just made me laugh. So relatable. But also we find out that he's like attacked and he literally like takes down people while he's completely naked, like in the shower, you know, like he just like Bodhi. What a guy. Love him.
Bodhi.
Classic Bodhi.
Bodhi. She ends up having a conversation with Rhee as well, and Rhee tells her that she thinks there's something going on in the healer's quadrant that they're not telling her. It's also interesting that while Violet hasn't said any of this stuff to Rhee or any of them, she's having her own speculations that she's not being told everything, and that there are secrets being kept from her as well, and she's kind of coming back to her on her own, which is just very interesting. And then also, what the heck is happening in the healer quadrant? What's going on? Got no information from that. And then this is just a thing that I highlighted because I thought it was funny. But this is when they're at assessment. 2 first years are getting called to spar, and they say their name. And Violet says, shit, I really didn't want to know their names. Like, she's trying to, like, you know, not connect any of these. And I wrote, I think this is also probably what Khan said, as she had to add their names to the pronunciation guide. Dang it, more names to add.
I did have to go back and check those.
Well, kind of ending this chapter and beginning the next one, my only note was, Nadine, no! After she got her neck turned around.
Gosh.
Out of nowhere.
And, like, what a way to go where the guy was like, I'm looking for Violet. And she was just like, I'm Violet because of my hair. Like, she was just joking with you, man. Man, it
Well, it's almost like he, like, heard her name and just went into, like, it's like, you said Soren Gale? Like, and just immediately.
sleeper cell mode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
It's wild.
Yeah, my note here was just like when he has her, the real Violet, and like the chokehold, he kind of whispers to her Colonel Atos's words, secrets die with people who keep them, and obviously tips her off. And I was like, well, Colonel Atos just moved to the very top of my shit list. Big time, buddy. Him and Varish are like, they're both up there. They're tied for first right now.
Neck and neck,
They are neck and neck.
so to speak.
All right.
Also, I just have a quick note about this. I know that I'm the person who does the pronunciation guide, so usually I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on when characters come into the story and who everyone is, at least on the second read. Where did Nadine come from? Was she in book 1 and I just missed it?
I think her name was mentioned a few times, but I think it was I honestly thought it was kind of a joke at it, because at the very beginning of this one, she was just in the tower and she's like, and I'm here too. I don't have a job. And Dane was like, okay, yeah, you could be here. And I was like, yeah, Nadine, what the heck have you been doing?
Funny.
That's what I thought. I spent the whole first 10 chapters being like, every time she spoke, I was like, who are you?
But I was like, no, I can't believe Nadine would be gone. That's how I was.
That's a good point, because I was literally so shocked that happened. I like, jaw was on the floor. I like walked down the stairs. Connor was like, wait, hold on. She like grabbed her phone to record it. But like,
Yeah.
I looked it up in the book, and Nadine is the one in their squad who had a thing against the Tirish people. And she's the one who's able to unweave wards. So she's the one who unweaves wards for her mom's door and the battle or whatever. And I guess Nadine is also Tirish, but she's not marked because her parents weren't part of the rebellion or
I
whatever.
see.
Okay.
Yeah, I did remember she had like a slight part, I guess you could say. But it was also one of those things where it's like, I felt like I didn't really know her, but still her dying in that way was shocking. But it was very like Nadine! Yes. No.
She's only mentioned 17 times.
Oh, that feels like a lot. Like in this book or the previous
No,
book?
the previous book.
Oh, that still seems like a lot.
For
Yeah.
your name to only come up that many, I don't feel like that's a lot.
I guess not. Maybe because it's a normal name that I just kind of kept skimming
Normal
over.
name.
Also
That means you
dead.
gotta be dead. Yep.
Yeah,
Nadine,
I don't know.
It does qualify.
Maybe she wasn't around or mentioned as much because Violet was spending so much time with Marked Ones, and if Nadine was kind of
She's a racist,
prejudiced
so.
against them, right?
And I think it was
I mean,
it was sometime, obviously, after they bonded and stuff, and they all started showing their signets, that she started coming around and kind of being cool with them.
Well, that's also the time that Violet spent like much more time with Xaden than anyone else. So everyone lost page time around.
I was a little distracted during that part.
And they were like, who are you again? That's funny. Well, back to assessment day. This fight with this dude, who I don't even know if we get his name, just this big dude. And at one point it was like his meaty hands came flying at me, and I was like, ooh, okay. But the whole fight, amazing. Love that she does the whole like kidney thing or whatever that Xaden taught her and stuff. I just imagine like them both just laying there and everyone in the room just being dead silent, like which one's alive and which one is dead. Yep. And then she's like pushed the whole body off. But her deciding to stay at assessment day, like sure, whatever, you're showing that you're strong. But to continue to go the rest of the day, including to other classes, with this dead guy's blood crusting in your hair.
And a concussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a choice, Violet.
Yeah.
What a choice.
Bold move.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. Dane tries to come and help her up, and she says very loudly, "Don't touch me." And I just appreciated this moment from, is it Emetario, where he comes over and the first thing he asks is, "May I touch you? Like, may I help you?" You know, and helps her out or whatever. And I just appreciated that. Like, way to be a man, way to ask permission. I just liked him a little bit better for that. So
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, and then this is the part where Xaden shows up and he says that Violet's room is warded against sound, too. He says, one way, of course, you can hear what's going on out there, but they can't hear what's going on in here. Figured you might like your privacy. I don't know if Imogen can actually hear her or not. But again, if she also can't sleep, maybe she's seeing Violet outside her window or something, running in the morning. So
here's her going down the hall, down the stairs.
Up the elevator.
Yeah.
What other noises could you make, guys?
The pots and pans lady. What's that? That old vine or whatever. Hey, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I ain't getting no sleep because of y'all.
Oh, yeah. Y'all
You
ain't getting no sleep because of me. Exactly.
This was just one of Xaden's little one-liners about, I forget how she set this up, but he says, "Is that a challenge?" He glances at the furniture. "Because I can guarantee we could take it down once you're healed." Oh, the armoire. That's what it was.
She
was
like,
saying,
I don't know, this one's pretty sturdy.
Yeah, Violet was saying the armoire in her room is a lot sturdier than the one last year. And he says, "Is that a challenge? Because I guarantee we can take it down once you've healed." And I wrote, "This would have convinced me."
That's all it would have taken.
Yeah. And the end of this chapter is Xaden Ryerson wrote me a letter. And I said, this also would have convinced me.
And I just wrote,
I was really wondering what that was because all you wrote was a bunch of capital L's.
Capital L's. That's right.
And I was like, was he going to be like, love it or something? And I didn't know what was happening.
Does this mean Xaden's taking an L?
That's what I thought
don't
it
know.
was. I was like, all right.
Yeah, L got him.
Well, Xaden talking to Violet, I forgot I had one more thing about him. He says, every time we're together, we're training or fighting. There's not a lot of time for long walks by the river or whatever passes for romance around here. But I told you I'd find a way to let you in. And right now, this is all I have. And I just wrote, I mean, it's categorically untrue that all your time is spent that way. You had several days to talk as she healed. You had over a day's flight to talk on the way back. You have several conversations, and you chose to distance yourself instead of talking. And now you're right in front of her and capable of talking, but chose to use a distancing act of giving a written letter instead of just saying it. But it's an effort. It's not the effort she deserves, but it is an effort.
E for effort.
Yes,
Lauren, you look like you have a thought.
I love you so much. And I'm going to choose to refrain my thoughts.
That's fair.
Maybe she'll write you a letter.
Yeah. I don't want to argue with you on podcast about how much I love Xaden and how you need to stop hating on him.
No.
He'll come around. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The first episode of Iron Flame. We got to give him room to grow.
First one.
Him being
taking
Kyle.
some L's here. Plenty of time for the character development to happen.
Yeah, and Kyle.
We'll see. We'll see if they do better.
Oh my gosh. All right, chapter 11. It kicks off with a pre-chap blurb version pre-chap of this letter from Lieutenant Xaden Ryerson to Cadet Violet Sorrengail. But two things about this. It's listed as recovered correspondence between Lieutenant Xaden Ryerson to Cadet Violet Sorrengail. The wording of that makes me a little nervous. Yep. But also, I want the whole letter. I don't just want in the epigraphs at the beginning of the chapter. Mm-hmm. I want to read all of it.
No can-do'sville, baby doll.
Oh my gosh.
I talked about this part, though, a little bit earlier about Bodhi's part, but this part about Garrick just made me laugh, too, where this is part of the pre-chap part, where it said, Garrick has always been my best friend. His father was my father's aide, which in a way makes him my Dane, except trustworthy.
Got him.
Sucks to be Dane.
In this little conversation that Violet has with Jacinia, I just wrote, yeah, she's definitely going to get booked for booking the wrong books, because that seems like where we're headed with this. With that one guy being under arrest for even just asking for whatever book it was that Jacinia refused to tell Violet what it was. It's coming. Like John said, I appreciate that she's doing something with what she has, but they're going to get busted somehow. Next one was something Riddick said, where everyone was like asking him for help with this work, and I think he was talking to Sawyer, saying, why don't you just accept that I'm a land navigation god and ask for help like everyone else? And my actual note was, God's Watch? Is Riddick a god in human form just playing around in War College?
I am glad he's like good at something. Like, no offense to him, but like he's just like the comic relief on the side.
Yeah.
But
Right.
maybe he'll be like a major help at some point and a major player kind of a thing.
They always are. The comic relief really surprised you in the end with some big thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Like being a land navigation god.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When Violet is talking to Jacinia, she has a really old book. It's called The Ancient King. And so she flips to the first page of the book. It's literally been dated from 25 years ago. So she's realized this about the books. And I wonder if maybe that's like what her dad did or something, or maybe Jacinia will or some point. I have hopes that Jacinia is a good person since I'm reading the book that she wrote. So I'm hoping she's a good guy. She also says that she's like translating it right now because we're working on removing all the dead languages from public section of the archives and translating them for easier reading. And so I wondered if this is why the book we are currently reading is transcribed into the modern language or something. Like maybe like at some point they're doing that again where it's supposed to be for easier reading or something.
But that would be that would mean that whoever wrote this story originally is speaking in a dead language, which would mean that this Jacinia would have to be a descendant, because there's no way what they're speaking and doing now is going to be dead soon. I would think, if anything, maybe they're trying to make Tyrish a dead language and just getting rid of that language so it's impossible to educate under their society.
I was gonna say, unless it is like some sort of diary type situation,
Yeah.
and Violet can speak, is it Lucerish or whatever
Oh,
it
yeah,
is that,
Lucerish,
yeah.
that she's doing now, and probably can do other languages, like how Jacinia knows all these other languages, assumedly that Violet has also studied that kind of stuff, trying to be a scribe. So,
Yeah.
Just realized I forgot to put that in the pronunciation guide.
well,
That's all right.
It is Old Lucerish, though.
thank you.
It's not quite Lucer, but it is Lucer-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever she gets her letters for the first time from Ree, or from wherever she gets her letters from, whoever's in charge, it said, I opened the unsealed flap of the envelope, and I immediately highlighted that, like, oh, why is it unsealed? And then later we find out that her letter has been redacted, and like all this information is taken out, and it doesn't sound like anyone else's letters was that way. And so obviously someone's reading her mail, but she talks about how Mira has been reassigned to Athbean, and I just feel like that can't be a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That like conveniently gets transferred there right after all this stuff happened, after Mira's life had been threatened.
Suspicious. This is where Violet and Varish are speaking, and Varish notices the bruises on Violet's neck from being literally strangled, and he says, quite the necklace you have there. And he points to the bruises, and she says, thank you. It was expensive. It cost someone their life. And I was like, ooh, got him with the comeback. That was quick.
Well, and I just like that while Taryn is here and stuff, and it says saliva drips in giant glops hitting the ground in front of Varish. And I was like, he's never done this before, Taryn. So like he's clearly doing this on purpose.
Oh, and then was Varish saying it was like a coincidence that Violet's dad was like studying feather tails, and then she happened to bond a feather tail?
He said it was ironic. And
Yeah.
she says
Oh, yeah.
coincidence. The word you're looking for is coincidence.
Yes, yes. So they're having this conversation, and then she says, was it a coincidence? To Taryn, and Taryn says, I know nothing of your father's research, Taryn promises, but Andarna has gone silent. And my note is, what does this mean? I mean, I know she's sleeping, but that feels pointed.
She was literally just talking.
Right.
2 seconds before
I
this.
am your father.
It's going to be like a Star
Plot
Wars
twist.
thing.
I have questions about that.
Yep.
That feels intentional.
Yeah.
My next comment here is when Bodhi he gives a little slip here about possibly Xaden's past, and he mentions a female name, and Violet, it says, my gaze whips toward him, and she says, who the hell is Catriona? And I was like, honestly, kind of sounds like a stripper name, to be honest. I don't know if they have those around these parts.
Oh my god. Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
Now, who the hell is she?
Who is she?
Who is it?
One of the Spice Girls, sounds like.
Spice
The
Girl.
Spice Girls.
Sounds like a spice.
The
Catriona.
Catty Spice.
Catriona. Meow. I think my last note for the whole book, or like this whole section or whatever, the whole book, the last note, you won't
is
hear
it.
me talk the rest of the episodes, that we just keep getting all this like little bits of information about the first 6 writers. Randomly, they have busts in the college, like just around, like their heads are apparently just chilling there. Didn't hear about that in the first book. It was like one of the first things mentioned when she got back to the college. I just want to know more about them. Like we learned about, I guess, that they weren't the first 6 to bond dragons. They were just the first 6 to survive. And some of this other like random about how they built the college where it is and the Wardstone. And I don't know. There's just like little tiny lore drops. And I would rather just have like all of it right now, please.
Just want to read the book. The first 6.
Actually,
I mean, not this book.
Both would be great.
Both would be preferable. They're trying to leave to go see Sigale and Xaden, and Varish was acting like they were going to get delayed. In Violet's POV, it says, I can feel Terran's physical pain like a knife to my own chest when he overpowers my emotions, because he's like so upset about missing Sigale and not being able to leave right away. My note was just poor Terran. I just feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
Kind of in the last moments here of this chapter section before her and Terran take off. This is after Varish searches Violet's things before she heads off. He says, see you in 48 hours, Cadet Sorengale. And don't forget, since your Feathertail decided not to join you for formation again, I will be pondering your punishment for dereliction of duty while you are gone. I just wrote, what a little... You know what I mean? This got me so riled up when I read it. I was like, oof, this guy.
All the people listening to audio will be like, it cut out there. What did he say?
Kind of one of those things that like he says, and then I always picture this, like they say it, and they fly off. So he's left standing there with like his 2 cronies.
Yeah.
And like, what is the reaction? Like he's just like, that sounded pretty cool, right? And right, guys? Like,
I really told her.
Yeah. And they're like, yes, sir.
Yes, major marriage.
But how rude for them to like literally like dump her bag
Yeah,
all
that
over
was
the floor and
unnecessary.
stuff. Like, jerk.
Even the other one was like, was that really necessary?
Yeah. Freaking Nora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going down.
You're on our list, Nora. The other guy's cool, but you?
All right. Well, that is it for chapters 1 through 11. So it's time for some reflection, boys. What are your overall thoughts?
Boy, this started off hot, huh? Lots of stuff going on here. Some deaths, new villainous rogues, more Dane hate, more dragon badassery. What's not to love?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect, who would have known I'd turn on Xaden so quickly.
We all did.
I was neutral about him at best before, but still, I was kind of hoping a guy who took on the responsibility of 107 others would be like a decent dude in a relationship. But I guess not. I mean, Vi isn't perfect by any means. I think she's ahead of the game, and definitely ahead of Xaden's game that he's playing. I like the teen angst of Vendarna that she's serving up, making Terran even more dad-like with every passing moment. Overall, I'm kind of over the relational aspects of it for now. I want to dig deeper into like the government corruption plot.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of new characters. So what are your thoughts on some of these new characters? Do you have any new favorites? Your least favorites? Has anything changed? Where are you guys at?
Varish, obviously, an instant hate and loathe. Terran can't eat him soon enough, honestly. Again, I like Auric for simply protecting a random other first year. I think Sloane will eventually move past her hate for Violet, but I'm also curious as to like what she heard about what happened with Liam, what that information was shared with her. I'm liking Vi and Imogen's little, like, a blossoming friendship. She's starting to, like, warm up to Violet, so that's cute. I'm on Markham Watch. I actually think he may turn into, like, a major player down the road since he's the main record keeper at the moment. Everything is kind of funneling through him. Like, he even tells them that they basically get the reports in the battle brief before they even send it, like, off to the king. Yeah. So they're getting all that information.
I didn't even think about that.
True.
Like, that they could even be changing the information for the king.
Yeah, exactly. So,
wild.
Yeah, like Violet's dad said, they're in control of everything, man. They're in control of all the information, and the information is what makes history.
Yeah, I have to think that Auric Greycastle, a.k.a. Cam, a.k.a. son of King Towery, is here for more than just getting away from family, and I kind of wonder if he, being in the know of royal goings-on, he might know more about what's happening in the world than, like, your average 20-year-old dragon enthusiast. And I also wonder how much Sloane knows. Like, clearly no correspondence with her brother, because they don't let you do that in the first year, and he was a first year. But surely they have other methods of communicating with each other. I don't know if she, like John said, like, just general news, or, like, is someone informing her of what's going on, like one of the upper years. But, yeah, Varys sucks for now.
Yep.
He's always going to suck.
Word.
He could
for
die
now.
and get better.
No redemption arcs on the
His
horizon
redemption
for
is
Varys?
his death.
Yeah, that's right. Perfect.
A girl can dream.
Well, give us all your final thoughts and theories for this section and just, like, leading into the rest of book 2. What do you guys think?
I think Violet will eventually go to Jasenia and tell her at least a little bit about what's going on. They'll try and, like, work together, maybe find some answers together. Also, I think Violet and maybe Jasenia, but maybe somebody else, I don't know, we'll try to get into that room in the Healer's Quadrant, like maybe Rhiannon. This is what I think. I think they'll try to do that. Someone is going to get caught, and then that's where we're going to see the Varish torture scene. Wondering if maybe they are forcing Nolan to channel, which is maybe why he's starting to look a little rough. His soul's starting to wither away, like they talk about the venom starting when they start to channel.
Whoa.
Oh, like you think Nolan's like
I think
they made him
Venom?
turn
Well,
venom?
I think they're forcing him to do something like that.
Interesting.
Maybe not
Okay.
exactly he'll, like, turn into a venom, but I think maybe they're doing some experiments, maybe using him in some way. I don't know. I think Indarna is going to be a force to be reckoned with. It'll be interesting to see how their training goes if Violet decides to, like, fly her sometimes, and, like, how that is going to work. Because I feel like that's going to be a new learning curve for both of them. After Nadine, and then after the attempts that we hear about on Bodhi, when Bodhi says that he's been attacked in the, like, showers or whatever, I fear that we may see another death or two orchestrated by Colonel Atos. And, like, I feel Varish is definitely part of this too. Like, he's for sure part of it. I would love to see a Terran and Solas face off. Like, take his other freaking eye, bro, bash him with the tail, torch him to high heaven. Like, get him out of here. And maybe that's how we see Varish's death. Is like, Terran takes out Solas. So we'll see.
Nice. All right.
I think we're going to get a lot more arguing between Zayden and Violet, since they basically get a day to see each other each week and then spend the next week, like, waiting and stewing over whatever it is they do or don't say to each other. Their situation just makes communication very difficult. I'm also interested in seeing what other new unknown classes or events will be attended by our intrepid dragon riders. The room Nolan is being exhausted in is very intriguing. I've been wondering what he could be doing in there. Kind of went a different route than John. I don't think it will be any of the options like post-interrogation healing subjects, but I'd be interested to know if any of the deaths we've seen didn't quite take, and they're having him do some, like, weird secret pseudo-resurrection project on them, like the girl who fell at the gauntlet, whose names I forget, the Intrinsic kid yelling about voices, Jack Barlow, any of Jack Barlow's, like, 15 victims, any of the kids that fall at Parapet. Like, there's so many bodies that fall down there. Like, who knows if one is, like, slightly survived that they're trying to, I feel like that'd be another reason to, like, him being worn out is, like, just using all that energy trying to, like, literally bring back someone from the brink of death. But I don't know who that would be out of all those many options.
Yeah.
Well, it could, if with that, like, it could be literally anyone.
Yeah, it could be
page.
someone we don't even know, like their unnamed parapet diver, but I feel like it would...
Yeah. It's a big theory. Parapet diver.
I only realized what I said when John chuckled.
Oh, man.
Like they did it on purpose. Woo! Yeah, I feel like it'd have to be someone named at least, like the girl who fell at Gauntlet, who again, I can't remember her name.
Orally?
Orally, yeah. Her or Jack Barlow or like there was another, I guess it could be Nadine, but that's pretty recent. Could be the guy who tried to kill Violet. Who knows? I don't know. Someone. It'd be interesting.
That's super interesting. I like that theory because it makes me think of Nowlin trying to save Brennan, bring Brennan back to life.
Yeah.
Right.
And
That's why
he like paid the ultimate price in the end, but maybe they're doing something similar.
Yeah, trying to like recreate whatever happened there. Because I don't know if I believe they think Brennan's dead.
The leadership at Basgiath?
I mean, like, there has to be people on the field that were with them, or like the dragons that were there that communicate with each other. And
Right.
True.
I've always wondered if the reason there's less dragons bonding is because they're all just actually still bonded to their riders. They're just part of this rebellion or something, and they think...
Or they're choosing the rebellion outright and just
Or-
going over that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's like Taryn and we didn't mention it in this episode, but Taryn and Violet have that conversation a little bit. Like, there's this is even less than last year, and he's like that the Empyrean has their own thoughts on it, and
Yep.
you know, they haven't decided things either, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I would think like even just Andarna coming back and like 2 dragons saw her, and everyone's talking about how there's now a black dragon, so you would think they would notice.
Yeah.
These other dragons haven't been around in a while or whatever.
Right. Or even just like any of the dragons on the field being like, I forget Brennan's dragon's name. Is it
Marb.
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 They'd be like, no, Marb's fine. He's out there with his rider. Like, he just didn't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like an old lady.
Yeah.
Marb!
Unless they just assumed that, like, if Brennan died, then Marb also died, if they had, like, a really powerful connection or something.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
That's true.
yeah, I don't know.
But there is like a whole, was it like hatching ground or wherever they're all staying
Yeah.
outside of Ryerson House? So maybe they're just hiding like they do in the Vale. I don't know.
Could be.
We shall see. Hopefully.
I guess we will. Because none of us know. Surely.
I know that like when we were doing Throne of Glass and Connor kept being like, but I remember nothing. It's like I'm reading it for the first time, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, but you did read the book. Like, but I'm feeling that. Like, I've read this one time, however long ago, almost at a year, but apparently a year hasn't been whenever I read this book. It's been over a
Well,
year.
no,
hasn't
this
it?
book was more than a year ago. I
Okay,
mean,
thanks.
between Fourth Wing and Iron Flame was only 6 months.
Got it. But it's just like, I feel like there's so many like speculations and theories, and then I've heard so many theories that part of me is like, what was actually in the book and what is like everybody just speculating online. So
It's also different because this is an unfinished series. So even being caught up with it like you two are, you really don't have all the answers.
good point.
So
Yeah, there's definitely, and there's times that like I don't want to tell you if I don't know or if I do, because I feel like it's a spoiler to tell you I don't know yet. Some things that we've talked about I do have answers to, but some of them I don't, and I'm, I gotta.
Well, yeah, even just mentioning so-and-so's name in a future book, then you would know so-and-so survives that long.
Yeah.
You know, even
Right.
just like little things like that aren't even major spoilers, but like technically I guess is. But
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
anyway, that takes us to the cry counter. I'm still at 2.
Oh, now I'm at 2 also. It's just me
Twins.
this week crying over Liam again.
0 again.
Yeah.
Twins.
0 for the boys. Cute. All right. Well, thanks for starting Iron Flame with us, everybody. Next week, we will be continuing with chapters 12 to 21. So make sure you're following at Between Pages on Friends on Instagram for updates, episode schedules, and general bookish shenanigans.
And for even more bookish shenanigans and general tomfoolery, don't forget to check out your Patreon. Your Patreon? Our Patreon.
It could be your Patreon if you just check it out.
Low price. Don't forget to check out our Patreon. Hit up betweenpagesandfriends.com for the Patreon link. Merch, because who doesn't need more bookish swag? Our Amazon storefront full of our must-haves, GoodReads and StoryGraph links to stalk our TBRs, and more. Until next time, stay wordy, stay nerdy, don't stress, and stay blessed.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.